Imagine a world where sight itself becomes the enemy, where a single glance could drive you to madness, or worse. In this chaotic, brutal world, Mallory and two children must navigate through the madness, desperately searching for a sanctuary. Welcome back to Recap TV. Today, we're unraveling the chilling 2018 horror thriller film called The Bird Box. If you enjoy story recaps like this, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more recaps like this. Now get comfy and let's dive right into the story. The story opens with Mallory Hayes, a tense and determined woman, speaking softly but urgently to two young children she calls boy and girl. Mallory's voice is calm but firm as she stresses the importance of keeping their blindfolds on at all times. There's a deadly danger lurking beyond sight. Carefully, Mallory follows a taut string trail laid out ahead, guiding the children step by step toward a boat hidden nearby. They climb in silently, the river stretching ahead like a vast unknown. Then the story shifts back 5 years earlier, before the world changed. Mallory is introduced as an artist, visibly pregnant. Her sister Jessica arrives, full of warmth and care. The two share a quiet moment, watching a news report on television that details a terrifying wave of mass suicides spreading rapidly from Siberia to Europe. Jessica observes one of Mallory's paintings, remarking that it reflects a profound loneliness. She assures Mallory that her impending motherhood will bring a connection unlike any other. To support her sister, Jessica offers to accompany her to a doctor's appointment. At the clinic, Mallory jokes lightly about drinking wine during pregnancy, but the Dr. Lapham isn't amused. She gently suggests adoption as an option if Mallory feels unprepared for motherhood. Leaving the office, the atmosphere shifts dramatically. A woman they passed earlier is now violently banging her head against a glass window, acting erratically. The sinister force behind the European suicides has crossed the ocean and reached American soil. Chaos erupts outside. People panic and crash their cars in the streets. Jessica quickly takes the wheel, determined to escape the madness. But the horror is closer than they think. Jessica's eyes suddenly shift to an unnatural, eerie color. She becomes terrified, gripped by an invisible force only she can see. Her driving turns frantic and wild. Mallory fights to keep her sister on the road, but the car flips violently. Though they survive the crash, Jessica remains entranced, lost to whatever unseen terror controls her. In a heartbreaking moment, Mallory helplessly watches as Jessica steps directly into the path of an oncoming truck. Mallory runs through the panic-stricken streets with a crowd of others. She stumbles and falls near a house. A woman named Lydia emerges from the doorway, stepping out to help. But before Lydia can reach Mallory, she too succumbs to the unseen force. Lydia appears to converse silently with a presence from her past, before walking straight into a burning car, which soon explodes. A man named Tom rushes to Mallory's side, pulling her up and urging her to take shelter in the house nearby. A police officer named Lucy arrives as well, adding to the small group huddled inside. The house holds several others: Greg, Douglas, Charlie, Felix, Cheryl, and a couple named Jason and Samantha. When Jason and Samantha hear their son's panicked voice on the phone, they flee, desperate to reach him. Inside the house, fear and confusion hang thick in the air. The survivors gather to share what they've experienced and what they believe about the terrifying force overtaking the world. Charlie voices a chilling theory. These entities, these unseen horrors, are demons that manifest as a person's deepest sadness or greatest loss, taking a shape so intimately personal, it drives victims to suicide the moment they look upon them. Everyone begins to understand the horrifying truth. The entity is invisible, yet its effect is devastating and immediate if seen with the naked eye. Mallory steps away from the group, haunted and withdrawn. Tom quietly follows and comforts her as she recounts the devastating loss of her sister Jessica. The mood is heavy, filled with despair and uncertainty. The survivors take drastic safety measures. They board up the doors and plaster newspapers over every window, sealing themselves away from the outside world. Cut to the present day on the river. After 6 long hours, Mallory and the children remain blindfolded in the dark, drifting downstream through an ominous night. Mallory attempts to reach out over the radio, desperate for contact, for any sign of life. But as she listens, a chilling whisper calls her name. Soft, haunting, a cruel reminder that the entity is near. Back to the past, a desperate woman named Olympia arrives, begging for sanctuary. Douglas initially resists, wary of inviting strangers in. Mallory, wary but protective, arms herself with a rifle. After careful consideration, the group reluctantly allows Olympia inside, and they discover she is also pregnant, adding another fragile life to their fragile hope. Greg takes it upon himself to monitor the outside world, using the house's transmitter room and computers. He watches the screens intently, searching for any sign of movement. Then, something appears. something unseen but deadly enough to cause a horrifying reaction. Suddenly, a thumping noise echoes through the house. The group rushes upstairs just in time to witness Greg collapse, slamming his head against a hard edge and dying instantly. In shock, they destroy the monitor, refusing to be drawn any further into the entity's deadly gaze. Later that night, a rare moment of normalcy tries to break through. Olympia attempts to engage Mallory in a gentle conversation about baby names, but Mallory remains distant, her mind heavy with grief and fear. Wandering the house, she thinks she hears strange noises, only to discover Lucy and Felix in a private moment. Back in the present, a man's voice calls out from outside, urging them to remove their blindfolds. He offers food and says he has seen the entity and that it is harmless, no reason to fear it. Mallory, skeptical and fierce, raises her gun and fires blindly as he approaches. A violent struggle ensues. He tries to remove her blindfold, forcing Mallory to fight for her life. In a brutal, desperate battle, she kills him with a machete, shattering the fragile hope his words briefly kindled. Days pass, and the group's supplies dwindle dangerously low. Knowing that rescue will not come, Mallory, Tom, Douglas, Lucy, and Charlie decide to risk venturing out. Their destination, the supermarket where Charlie used to work. They paint over the windows to keep from seeing outside and rely on GPS to guide their way through the perilous world. They feel the unsettling sensation of driving over countless dead bodies littering the roads. Suddenly, the GPS alerts them to proximity danger. The entity is nearby, surrounding their vehicle. Tom's skilled driving narrowly avoids disaster, steering them out of harm's way. At the market, they rush inside and gather as much food as they can. Among the aisles, Mallory spots birds, fragile creatures that symbolize a connection to the natural world, and decides to take some with her. Their scavenging is interrupted by a frantic voice coming from a freezer. Fish Fingers, Charlie's co-worker, trapped and pleading to be let out. He speaks strangely about the entity, calling it beautiful and insisting it must be seen. As Fish Fingers tries to break free, Lucy, Tom, and Douglas struggle to restrain him. Charlie then sees the entity, and in that instant, knows he's doomed. In a heartbreaking act, he pushes Fish Fingers into the freezer, trapping both of them inside. Charlie dies there, sacrificing himself to save the others. The group leaves the market broken and shaken. That night, inside the boarded-up house, an uneasy calm settles. Mallory and Douglas share a rare, quiet moment. They open up about their personal struggles. There's a fragile connection forming between them. But suddenly, the others hear the unmistakable sound of a car engine starting and driving off into the night. The group rushes to the garage, only to find it empty. More disturbing, Lucy and Felix, who had been part of their fragile community, are nowhere to be found. Back in the present, Mallory's river journey grows more perilous. She stops rowing for a brief moment, taking a much-needed rest. When she resumes, the boat collides with a sunken truck hidden beneath the water's surface. The impact throws Boy into the cold river. Mallory reacts instantly, pulling him back aboard. She tries to warm him, but panic rises as she realizes the food and blankets, her precious supplies, have been lost to the water. Determined to find food, Mallory leaves the children alone in the boat and ventures into the dense woods. She enters an abandoned building, its silence disturbed by eerie noises and objects moving on their own, as if manipulated by the malevolent entity itself. The whispering of her name grows louder, an insidious reminder that the unseen force is near. Mallory fires her gun into the darkness, her defiance echoing through the empty space. Hearing the gunfire, Girl leaves the safety of the boat, rushing to Mallory's aid. As she stumbles through the dense underbrush, a whisper slithers through the air. Soft, coaxing, inhuman. Just as her hands begin to reach toward the sound, Mallory bursts from the trees and grabs her. They return together to the boat. Mallory quickly scolds her for leaving the boat unattended, grasping the gravity of their fragile survival. Back in the past, Tom opens up to Mallory, recounting his time stationed in Iraq, where he and his comrades would escort children to school in war-torn chaos, mirroring their current fight for survival in a world gone mad. As they share their stories, an unspoken attraction begins to blossom, but hope remains fragile. Olympia quietly lets a desperate man named Gary into the house without asking the others. Tension spikes instantly. The group aggressively searches and interrogates Gary. Desperate to know if he's a threat, Gary reveals a horrifying tale. He and his friend were attacked by escaped mental patients who tried to force them to look at the creatures. His friend fought back against the attackers, sacrificing himself to allow Gary to escape and find safety at the house. Even more chilling, Gary warns that some people outside have chosen not to wear blindfolds. They willingly seek to see the creatures and try to convince others to do the same, embracing madness or death. Douglas distrusts Gary completely. He tries to force him out at gunpoint, but Cheryl intervenes, knocking Douglas unconscious and locking him away in the garage. Olympia, shaken and guilt-ridden, tearfully apologizes for bringing Gary into the house, feeling like a burden to the others. Mallory reassures her firmly that she is not a burden. In a deeply human moment, Olympia asks Mallory to promise to care for her unborn baby if anything happens to her. Mallory agrees, accepting the responsibility. Olympia gives Mallory a small Hello Kitty toy to pass on to the child. The scene opens with Girl clutching a small Hello Kitty toy, revealing that she is Olympia's daughter. They are fast approaching the river's rapids, the most dangerous, unpredictable part of their journey. She explains the peril. Someone must open their eyes to steer through safely. Both children volunteer without hesitation, brave but young. Mallory's heart clenches, but she refuses to risk either of them. Her decision is clear. No one will look. They will face the rapids blindfolded, trusting instinct and fate alone. Inside the house, the pressure builds as both Mallory and Olympia go into labor. Tom and Cheryl tend to the women, the room heavy with fear and hope. Meanwhile, Gary's true nature is revealed. He reveals himself as one of the deranged few who have seen the entity, and worse, desires others to see it too. He pulls out a disturbing collection of drawings, grotesque and haunting. Gary locks Mallory's birds inside the fridge, silencing their warning calls. Then, in a reckless act, he tears the newspapers off the windows, exposing the house to the outside world's deadly threat. Tom comes downstairs and sees the strange drawings. Douglas manages to warn him about Gary, but it's too late. Gary knocks Tom unconscious. Gary opens the garage door, aiming to rid himself of Douglas. Gary moves upstairs, where he finds Cheryl, Mallory, Olympia, and their newborn babies. Before anyone can react, he pulls up the blinds. Olympia sees now the entity's invisible horror. With a final act of trust and desperation, she hands her baby to Mallory before leaping out the window to her death. Gary's cruelty deepens. He coerces Cheryl to open her eyes to the outside world. Overcome by terror, Cheryl stabs herself with scissors, ending her own life. Douglas awakens and rushes in with a rifle but is paralyzed by fear of hitting Mallory and the newborns. He fires, wounding Gary in the arm, but Gary retaliates savagely, killing Douglas with the scissors. Tom rushes in, sees the rifle, and a struggle ensues between him and Gary. 2 gunshots ring out. Tom survives, rushing to Mallory's side with the babies, a painful testament to survival against all odds. Now the story leaps 5 years into the future, back to the present timeline that began the film. Mallory and Tom have settled into a routine, raising the 2 children in isolation. Later, Tom confronts Mallory gently but firmly. She's failed to truly connect with the children. They don't even have names. This moment exposes Mallory's emotional walls, built to protect, but also keeping her distant. Suddenly, the sounds of unblindfolded people driving nearby shatter the fragile calm, their car engines roaring past as they drive by, seemingly unaware of Mallory, Tom, and the children hiding in the house. That night, a flicker of hope arrives via radio. A man named Rick broadcasts from a supposed safe compound downriver, promising supplies and security. His voice is reassuring but grave. He instructs them to follow the sound of birds to find sanctuary. Tom, ever the optimist, pushes to trust Rick's message and make the journey. Mallory remains cautious, suspecting it could be a trap. Later, the survivors from earlier arrive. Tom goes out to confront the intruders, while Mallory and the kids slip away. The marauders order Tom to remove his blindfold, but Tom refuses. When they spot Mallory and the children, Tom fires his rifle, killing 3 attackers, but he's wounded, taking a shot himself. Tom removes his blindfold and fights fiercely, killing 2 more marauders. The entity begins to affect Tom, clawing at his mind, but his will holds just long enough for him to kill the leader. In his final act, Tom turns the gun on himself, choosing death over possession, sending Mallory a silent, heartbreaking message. He's gone. With heavy hearts, Mallory gathers the children and prepares to face the river once more. It's been 42 grueling hours on the river. Mallory, girl, and boy are closing in on the dreaded rapids, the final, most dangerous stretch of their journey. The river grows wild and turbulent, tossing their small boat like a leaf in a storm. Mallory steers desperately, but the boat hits a violent bump and capsizes, plunging all 3 into the icy water. Chaos erupts as they struggle to stay afloat. Mallory calls out urgently through the roar of the rapids. She finds Boy in the water, struggling but alive. Mallory is relieved to see that the girl has already made it to the shore. With all 3 safe, they continue their journey on foot. Together, the 3 move cautiously through the dense woods. The entity's whispers rise, seductive and relentless, trying with all its dark might to force their eyes open. But Mallory's iron will anchors them. She commands the children to trust her, to keep their blindfolds firmly in place. Guided by the familiar and reassuring sound of birds, they arrive at the sanctuary Rick promised. But the entity is waiting, surrounding them like a living nightmare. Desperation pushes Mallory to the brink as she fights to reach the compound's door. Then, with a sudden click, someone opens it, and they're pulled inside. Their eyes are quickly examined and cleared. They are safe. Mallory and the children meet Rick in person. The sanctuary is revealed to be a school for the blind, a haven where the inhabitants are naturally shielded from the entity's deadly influence. There they find Dr. Lapham, a figure from Mallory's past, greeting them warmly. Dr. Lapham asks the children their names. For the first time, Mallory gives them names. Girl is Olympia, after her mother who died in the madness, and boy is named Tom, honoring the man who sacrificed so much for them. Mallory declares with fierce pride that they are her children, and she is their mother, a bond forged in survival and love. Finally, Mallory opens the box holding her beloved birds. She releases them into the sanctuary, letting them join the flock that sings in this safe place, a symbol of freedom, hope, and a new beginning. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Catch you in the next one.